Hey guys, Josh Mosman here. We have the 2022 KTM 250SXF. Motocross Action is going to be putting it to the test today. This is the first new model that we're testing for the 2022 season. This bike ranked second in MXA's 250 shootout last year. The MXA Wrecking Crew, we liked the Husqvarna because of the lowered suspension and stuff like that, but this bike was a close second. The only updates that they made for the new year are the orange frame. It went from black to orange, and it also has an updated bearing and the camshaft. So really no performance enhancing updates in the bearing, but basically just adding a little bit of durability and taking away a little bit of that friction. So I'm excited to hop on this bike and break it down today for you guys. All right, so KTM 250 comes with Dunlop MX33 tires. MXA across the board, we run 13 in the MX33 fronts, and then we run 12.5 MX33 rear tires. Funny story, a couple weeks ago, KTM, sometimes they set the air pressure for us, sometimes they don't. The other day they gave us like 60 pounds of pressure in both tires, and I rode with it and it felt horrible. So tech tip, always check your tire pressure. 12.5 in the rear, 13 in the front. So stock air pressure on these is 10.5 bar, right around 152, 153 PSI. So that's what we put in for the start. Another tech tip, always bleed these little bleeders right here. These things make a huge difference, and want to bleed out the little excess air buildup that comes from letting it sit in the truck or driving through different elevations on your way to the track. Obviously, it's the same bike as it was last year. The orange frame doesn't feel any different on the track. I could joke around and say maybe it feels a little bit different in the air, a little bit better for whipping or scrubbing, but no. Orange frame handles exactly the same on the track. There is only one change on this entire bike that's actually a hard part, and that is the balancer shaft that's used for reducing friction and vibration at the handlebars and foot pegs. Inside the engine, that got a new bearing. So basically it went from a needle bearing to a standard bushing or standard bearing. Really no feeling, you can't tell on the track. We rode back to back with the 2021 and with the 2022. No feeling on the track, no difference, but there is one small change, so we have to mention that. I was the first person out on the track today. It was super deep, and as we talked about last year on this bike, we like to go up a tooth on the rear sprocket. So it comes stock with a 51 tooth rear sprocket. We jumped it up to a 52. That definitely helped us out today. It made it a lot easier coming out of the corners. The KTM 250, it's not known for being a torquey, strong pulling bike coming out of corners. That's more the Yamaha and even Suzuki. Those bikes are a little more poppy for 250s coming out of the corner. KTM, it loves to be revved. It loves to be ridden up into the high up into the RPMs. We put that 52 tooth sprocket on there, helped a lot. I could have run a 53 pro level rider, but we had some of our other test riders out here today. Daryl rode it, and some of our novice guys that'll get on it, they will appreciate that 52 tooth rear sprocket. So last year for 2021, all of the Austrian bikes, KTM, Husqvarna, Gas got all new exact air forks from WP. These things are immensely better. So I have a lot of friends who are buying used bikes, and they're always asking me about used Huskies, used KTMs, which one should they buy? Should they go with a 19 or 20, or should pay a little bit extra to get that 21 or now the 22 model, since they're exactly the same? I'm always pushing guys to buy the 21 or 22 because the forks are so much better. They got a lot more air bypass notches, and they got a lot more oil bypass notches. So the bypass systems that they have in the forks are basically just to make them feel more like a spring fork. They're not ramping up in pressure as you get further down in the stroke. Today we ran 10.5 bar, which is stock. It comes out to 152 to 153 PSI. So we ran that stock today. I liked it. Some of our slower test riders or some of our lighter test riders will go down a little bit on air pressure, or they'll come out a little bit on compression. So when comparing the KTM to the Husky and Gas models, which are also the same for 2022, the KTM definitely holds up a lot more and is suited to more of an experienced rider in its stock form, where Husqvarna and Gas, they're a little more plush, a little more easy to ride for the novice and vet riders. As for mapping, we went back and forth with it. Even though this bike is exactly the same as last year, map 1 is their stock standard map. It's a little more mellow. Map 2 definitely gives it a little more grunt coming out of the corners, a little more excitement. So I pretty much rode in map 2 all day because it's a stock 250. We're at Glen Helen, the hills are steep, the track was pretty deep as I mentioned. So map 2 is where I stuck, but going back and forth between the two, map 1 is definitely a little more mellow. So our average novice rider, or if the track's really rough and slick, map 1 would be good for that. But otherwise, stock 250, you want all the power you can get, so map 2 is where we stuck to. Today we rode this bike back to back with our 2021 model. That bike, we had it all the settings suspension wise set back to stock. Everything was put back to stock. The only differences was the tires that we had on there. So comparing them back to back, that one had 35 hours. Today we put 2.2 hours on this bike, so we got it up to 3 hours. So it's a lot more fresh, a lot more tight and exciting, but overall suspension worked the same for us today, and we liked it back to back. One durability thing that we do check every single time we ride a new Austrian bike, or really any bike in general, is we check the spoke right next to the rim lock. So for KTM, Husky, Gas, these are always known for coming loose. Surprisingly, today it actually held up pretty well, but we're definitely going to keep an eye on it and keep checking that as we go forward. Also, the sprocket bolts on KTMs, they held up as well today, so no complaints there, but we do keep an eye on it as we know that is a problem with KTM sprocket bolts, and also that spoke right next to the rim lock. So keep an eye on those if you have a KTM. Obviously, for me as a test rider, it is kind of a bummer that this bike didn't get any wild new changes, because I have a little bit less to talk to you guys about, but it did get that orange frame. And one interesting note about the orange frames, this is the third time the KTM has put the orange frame on their production models. The last two times were in 2015 and 2018, and those are both years right before KTM made big updates for their production models. So this is kind of a sign that we could see new bikes coming from KTM in 2023. A little bit of insight, we definitely know that there'll be new bikes from KTM and 250, 350, and 450. So looking forward to that. Although we do expect new bikes from KTM coming out in 2023, this bike is not an old dog by any means. Yes, it is the same as last year, but it placed second in our 250 shootout last year. It did really well, second to the Husky. We did like the Husky's lowered suspension platform, but overall, this bike is awesome. It comes with that ventilated airbox cover again. We run that thing full time because we like getting more air to the airbox, and it really helps out the engine and makes it feel a little bit stronger. So we didn't even try the standard airbox cover. We ran the vented one all day today. Overall, it was a lot of fun riding the 2022 KTM 250SXF, and it's hard to believe that we're already testing 2022 bikes. But if you want to learn more about this bike, you can check out the full in-depth MXA race test on it in the October 2021 issue of MXA. We're going to have all of our suspension settings, kind of the different things that we tried, and talk to you guys about it, comparing it to some of the other bikes as well. So got a lot more in the books for this bike, even though it is the same as last year. Excited to put it up against some of the other models that we'll hopefully see some bigger updates on. So thanks for tuning in. As always, check out motocrossactionmag.com. We got more bike tests, product tests, we got our shootouts on there, race results, reviews, and more. So we got a lot of stuff on our website, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date with our latest videos, as we got a lot of ones coming there. Also, if you're a two-stroke lover, we just finished our 2021 125 two-stroke shootout. That was a blast. Check out the whole video by clicking the thumbnails now. And if you haven't seen our weekly This Week in MXA videos, you can click the thumbnail here, as we give a weekly update on what's going on in the industry and what's going on with the MXA Wrecking Crew. Thanks for watching. See you next time.